This is going to be self-indulgent. Very little else. I'd say I'm sorry, but I'm not really. I kind of just want to talk. It's a funny thing to say, followed by a period of pregnant silence. This urge to express yourself bubbling over, frothing, boiling. And then you begin to let it pour out, and it turns instead into something gelatinous. Something more like molasses. I've spent a lot of time today reflecting. Staring at the wall, staring at the ceiling, staring into the distance, nothing at all, and reflecting. Thinking, feeling, quietly. Without rush, without hurry, without urgency. I'm upset in at least half a dozen different ways. It's so fascinating how we get so comfortable with being uncomfortable. How we can get so used to things that we shouldn't get used to. That it would be all the better if we didn't get used to them. This month has been not as terrible as it could have been. But it has been a disappointment. A disappointment for me, and I know a disappointment for others. And when I think about my disappointments, my frustrations, God, they can seem so fucking petty in comparison to things not so far away. I have been missing friends a lot this month. People who I had gotten used to having around. That haven't been around. That have been too busy to talk. That have been preoccupied with different things. The isolation hasn't been awful. It hasn't been. I haven't been overly lonely. It hasn't been a feeling that has stuck with me and stayed with me. It's visited on occasion, often mixed with disappointment when I've had plans that have fallen through, and I've had many this month. But I'm more just tired. I'm tired. I want things to be better than they are, and easier than they are, and less horrifying than they are. I'm scared. I'm angry. I'm worn the fuck out. I've talked to multiple people that I desperately love this month. And so many of them are struggling. It's so easy to say that, well, to lean into negativity, to lean into fixating on failing health of people that I love. The enormity of the problems that I'm facing and the people that I love are facing. And feeling powerless to solve so many of my own problems, let alone to help the people I care so much about with what they're going through. I feel like I'm not even running on a treadmill. I'm not running in place. I'm just standing still. I'm not even treading water. I'm just not moving. I'd say I feel like I'm running on a treadmill or I'm treading water if I were still putting enough energy into the system to expect feedback, expect a different outcome, but I'm not. I'm not. I'm putting in energy and expecting nothing out of it, and when nothing comes of it, I'm not surprised. It just seems normal. Terrible and normal. I am so fucking tired. I sat down to record something the other night, and I stopped myself. It felt too self-pitying. That what I wanted to say, wanted to write about someone else, was really just about me. Just about me. I am desperately insecure right now. And I have been for a lot of this year. And that has been an unusual feeling for me. Not to say that I've never felt insecurity before, only that it has never been so persistent. It is not an aspect I would like to adopt full time. It is not something that I would like to make a part of me. But I do feel like I'm falling apart. A little at a time. Not dramatically, just mortally. inevitably. The sort of thing where if I had more resources, if I had more money, I could slow it, ease it, put some of the pieces back into place. But I don't. I don't. It's very surreal to have, say, a tooth fall out. And to look at this thing that was once a part of you and know that it never will be again. When you're young, you have the benefit of, well, I'll have a replacement grow in. But this loss isn't forever. I'm growing on to bigger and better things, more permanent things. Sometimes loss is just loss. Sometimes when you lose something, you don't get something else in return. You can't look at the silver lining and go, well, at least I've gotten this. I've gotten experience, I've gotten context, I've gotten insight, I've gotten wiser, older, more skilled. I'll never make that mistake in that exact same way again, right? We cope. We cope and we find something that we can take away from our loss to make it feel like it had meaning. When it doesn't have meaning, we make the meaning, and that doesn't take away any of the beauty or the value or the gravity or enormity of that meaning, but we create it. Your loss, your hurt, your pain don't have meaning. There is not some poetic architecture to the universe, some unseen divine hand painting a story that will all make sense in the end, that all fit together neatly. No, unfortunately, you are the only architect that you really have. And you're not so much an architect as an improv artist. Being given prompts that you really didn't have much input into, if you had any input at all. Being cast into roles not of your choosing. And just trying to make the best of it, make the most sense of it, and play along. And sometimes that play is a fun thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful and joyful and exuberant thing. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really not. I wish so much that I had been open to being changed by the people who love me more when I was younger. I felt strongly and resolutely that trying to change someone that you love was a mistake. It was wrong. It's really the motive that matters. It's the motive that matters, the means that matter a bit, and the end result. Naturally, the consent of the other party matters exceptionally much, but I didn't know better. And I thought that I did. I thought that I knew better. I knew how I felt and I felt very strongly, and my feelings were not incorrect. But my mistake, time and time again, was seeing these differing views and these competing goals or values or philosophies or lenses. I saw them as being incompatible, antithetical, one or the other, absolute. And they're not. They're not. The kindest thing that I could have done for myself was to embrace being soft. To be soft. Sad, scared, vulnerable, honest. Not just honest in telling the truth, but honest in sharing inconvenient truths. And I'm not happy. That things aren't okay. That whatever joke you made hurt my feelings. That the way that you've been raising me taught me that I need to put aside childish things and grow up to ever be worthy of respect. That if I want people to listen to me and to see me, I needed to impress them first, or wow them, that I had to earn that right. It's a terrible thing to have learned, and I don't think it was ever anyone's intention to teach it to me. But it's something that I did. So now in my 30s, when I love someone dearly and I think the world of them, and they give me butterflies and have me staring at my phone or my computer, smiling and blushing and damn near kicking my feet, when they get busy and they can't give me their attention, which was never their obligation, never the expectation in the first place. When they have other priorities, I don't internalize that in a way that listens to what the fuck they're telling me, that believes the words that they're saying to me. No, I internalize that in the most fucked up, unproductive way. That while there is likely truth to what they are saying, that all the same, life is a long series of prioritizations, is never not busy, is never not overwhelming. And that if somebody doesn't make the time for you, doesn't set the space for you, doesn't prioritize you, that teaches you who you are to them and how much you matter to them, really, fundamentally. And that people will, when push comes to shove, almost always have a line that is a higher priority item than you. And like, Jesus Christ, okay, you fucking nihilist, that is true. You poor, undiagnosed, depressive bastard, but it has nothing to do with your value. It has nothing to do with your worth. It has nothing to do with how much love you deserve. And the lens of seeing love friendship and approval and affirmation is something that you have to earn. You're never going to trust love. You're never going to feel secure. You're only ever going to be afraid. If you don't have power and you have that worldview, you are going to be afraid. And when you have power and you have that worldview, you are going to be afraid and powerful. And those are not good qualities to mix. You'll seek to use your agency, to use your authority, to use your skills and talents and intellect and poeticism and witticism and charms to try to earn that which you don't need to earn. A thing that you shouldn't be trying to win. A thing that is given, not bought, is shared, not secured or stolen. I don't want to be so afraid. I don't want to be so vulnerable. I don't want to be in the position I'm in right now, where I'm so incredibly fortunate to have the support that I have. But it feels like I'm on hold. There's nothing to do. Sometimes. Hell, oftentimes. I love you. And you're going through a hard time. You are overworked and underpaid and overextended, stretched thin. And I fucking adore you, and there's nothing that I can do to help. And when I think about what you're going through, so much of what I feel is anger toward myself. Anger that I can't help. That I can't alleviate it. That I can't make it go away. Anger that I'm not in a position where I can just pay your fucking bills. That I can make your dreams come true. Anger that I can't be of service. That I can't help. I can't just make it go away. And I love you. And when you tell me that you're struggling to handle a difficult confrontation, I get so upset because all I want to do is step in and fight your battles for you. You can fight them on your own. You can win them on your own handily, easily. You are smart. You are passionate. You are brilliant. You're conflict averse, which is a problem, obviously, causing this to drag on month after month, year after year at this point. And I want so badly to step in and fight your battles for you, and I can't. And I hate that I can't solve the problem. I feel like such a useless friend. You can't pay rent? I care about you and you're my friend and I want to be able to pay your rent the same way that in the past I paid the rent of other people. And in the same way that I need help paying mine now. I want to be a font overflowing. I don't want to be a fucking sink. I could use some affirmation. These small, subtle, quiet ways of self-interrogation and belittlement, of self-critique and criticism, are not to a problematic point. Well, no, they're always a problematic point. Have not built to the point at which they become a more tangible problem, but they have built to the point where I'm aware that there is a growing tension and intensity. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. I'm just so fucking tired. I'm so tired because it feels like all I need is one thing to go right. One specific kind of thing to go right, and then that knocks over the entire goddamn line of dominoes. I can just get that momentum, if I can just get that start, then that would have a knock-on effect, with a knock-on effect, with a knock-on effect, with a knock-on effect. I could start solving problem after problem after problem after problem after problem, instead of having to just fucking sit with them. But I don't believe that that first domino is going to fall. I'm pushing it. I've been pushing it. I've been fucking kicking and screaming. Losing my goddamn mind. For what? Not a lot. Not a lot. Frustration. Disappointment. Repetition. It's a fucking miracle I'm half as sane as I am. That I'm not more burnt out. That I'm not more depressed. Yeah, it truly is. God, this is such bullshit. God, this is such fucking bullshit. And it's not bullshit because I feel like I deserve some fairy tale of a life. I don't despair because I have the expectation that I should be living in some charmed fantasy. I just want to put in work that I feel good about, that is compensated at a sufficient rate to keep me alive, and with an excess for me to meet my emotional needs and to assist others in meeting their needs. I don't want a fucking yacht. I don't want a boat. I don't want a big house. I don't want champagne, cocaine, and strawberries every night. I want to fucking care. I want to care and to put that care into practice through labor, to have that labor make an impact, to have that labor be meaningful. And compensated meaningfully, but meaningful. I don't think I'm ever going to be wealthy. I'm not gonna make it rich. I could be comfortable. I feel like that's realistic. Anything beyond that, no, not so much. That doesn't bother me because it's not something I've put a lot of stake in, but yeah. There's there's a guy back in the 70s, John Wojtowicz, Wojtowicz. John had a woman that he very much loved by the name of Elizabeth. Elizabeth needed surgery. Elizabeth could not afford that surgery, nor could John. Elizabeth wasn't going to die. Elizabeth was not in immediate peril. But the surgery was such that it was necessary for Elizabeth to lead a life where she could feel fully herself, have the highest quality of life available to her. And John did a wonderful thing. He did not encourage his loved one to make peace with unhappiness, to make peace with being uncomfortable, to make peace with being incomplete. John robbed a bank. In 1972, John robbed a bank to pay for Elizabeth's surgery. No, very romantic, right? No, you're probably listening to this story and you're assuming some things that aren't true. Elizabeth was trans, and the surgery was gender-affirming surgery. Now, if I had told that fucking story and I talked about some straight cis-ass dude robbing a bank for his cis wife, it's a story that a lot of people would see and go, oh yeah, that's romantic. But so many fucking people suddenly have complicated opinions when it turns out the story's a bit more queer than you expected. Honestly, we fucking stand John for doing what he did. That's a goddamn ally right there. I'd say, as the kids say these days, a real ride or die, but honestly, ride or die has been around for a while. In the wealthiest country on earth, even in the 70s, John should not have needed to rob a fucking bank for the woman that he loved, Elizabeth, would get the care that she needed. It is, frankly, it is an unforgivable sin of our parents and their parents' generations that we've been handed down the system that we have. That we live in a system wherein people's mental and physical well-being is subject to something to be profited off of. That shelter, sustenance, education, dignity are things with dollar values attached to them. This is hell. This is a special, existential, nightmarish dystopia. But God, it does such a good job at making itself look pretty. And there's so many stupid, naive people who genuinely believe that this piece of shit is working for them. Or will work for them. They just have to try harder. They just have to be better. They just have to get their chance, shoot their shot. They just have to have the right person see them, and then they'll make it big. It won't happen. I have a friend. I have a friend, distant friend, childhood friend, high school friend, who moved out to LA when they were about 18, with the intention of becoming an actor, making it big. They are in their 30s now. And they're still fucking trying. They are still on that grind, trying to make it happen. And I want them to chase their bliss. I want them to chase their passion. Oh, who... There's an expression by... Oh yeah, Bukowski. It would be Charles Bukowski. Find what you love and let it kill you. My dear, find what you love and let it kill you. Let it drain you of your all. Let it cling to your back and weigh you down into eventual nothingness. Let it kill you and devour your remains. For all things will kill you, both slowly and fastly. But it's much better to be killed by a lever. And God, that's such a nice sentiment, but the fucking thing is, Bukowski, we can make it so that so many of these things don't kill us so quickly. Yes, absolutely go chase your fucking bliss, but also just give a minimum stipend to everyone so that they can afford food and a place to live. Give everyone access to health care. To fucking dental care, too. Make child care free. If this is such a great fucking country, certainly don't make it a great place to live. Oh, if you hate it so much, why don't you leave? Buddy, I am broke. And I highly doubt that there are any countries that I could move to that are not either also under the thumb of American imperialism or would have any special or unique use for me that is not already present here. And I'm at the point where I don't think voting makes anything much better, that we can vote for harm reduction. But that is really the insidious part of the Democratic Party. It's just a pressure release valve for the system. For capitalism being the system. That when the pros get upset, they get desperate, you give them someone nice and pretty and passionate, well-spoken, and you put them on a platform, and you say, vote blue no matter who. And then they get into office, and, you know, gang, I just can't do it. I just can't make the changes. Turns out things are hard. We can try some incrementalism. We can try changing a little bit, just a little bit, for a small portion of people. Oh, look, wow, it's so performative, and I'll get some people personally affected by this and ignore that systemically I haven't changed a thing. The day that you stop believing that the Democratic Party of the United States fails to enact meaningful change because the scary Republicans won't let them, the day that you let go of that myth and that you look at the reciprocal relationship for what it is, well, I mean, the false hope wasn't serving you well, but it does get rid of that. Oh, I'm so fucking tired. I'm so fucking tired. Watching a genocide take place over the course of a year and have the people who supposedly represent me and my values, and they certainly don't, talk about time and time again how it's a both sides issue, when only one side is backed by an international superpower, giving them weapons and munitions and political coverage in the United Nations. It's only one side that's killing tens of thousands of people, bombing neighborhoods into rubble, taking land, killing journalists, murdering children en masse. There's only one of the parties involved escalating the conflict so as to bring in other nations, so as to act the victim, as is the historic playbook for this nation in this region. I'm so fucking tired. I'm so fucking tired. The planet's getting hotter every fucking year. It won't get better. The best that we can hope for is that it stops getting worse, and it won't. Not anytime soon. And we have had my entire fucking life that we have been aware of this problem and aware of the solutions and refusing to embrace it. Because that'd be bad for big gas and oil. It'd be inconvenient. That would materially affect the way that we have grown accustomed to living. Car culture would be threatened. This monolithic aspect of this cult to individualism that we built here would need to change. And we're not willing. And we're not willing. There is a unique horror to sitting and remembering fields of fireflies, the sound of crickets, distant cacophony of frogs, the occasional chirp or hoot of a night bird. And know that this scene, in my mind, in my memory, will never happen again. Too many species have been pushed to the brink of extinction or past that point. Too many ecosystems won't heal in my lifetime. That in order to start healing, they'd have to stop hemorrhaging, and right now they're still hemorrhaging. What the fuck do I have to look forward to? I'll tell you what. Art. Movies. Shows, books, stories. Distractions. I have distractions to look forward to. Some very good distractions. Some distractions that I'm making. Some stories that I'm telling with other people that I'm wholeheartedly, emphatically, passionately involved with. And that's what we're left with. We scurry back into the allegorical cave. We make puppets with shadows on the wall, imitating what we've seen above in their memory. Because it's not things passing by the mouth of a cave making shadows on the wall anymore. No, there's nothing passing by the fucking cave anymore. We went out, we saw the world, and we killed it. We killed it. I say we. Wasn't me. Wasn't me. I don't have a car. I've never had a fucking car. My diet is so heavily vegetarian. I've even taken the time to figure out what kind of proteins are most efficient in terms of fuel usage and water. I live in a state where all of my electricity comes from green energy sources. I'm not fucking doing it. I'm not. This is something being done by large corporations. By inept or complicit governments. And by complacent populace who aren't yet desperate enough to do desperate things to force change that won't come otherwise. And I'm not advocating for violence. I hate that I even have to fucking say that. The system is already violent. There's just a monopolization of that violence. There's nothing peaceful about a system that shoots people for fare evasion, that executes potentially innocent men simply because they're on death row, and that's the way it's gonna be. There's nothing peaceful about a system that deports students because they protest for a cause that is inconvenient to the political narrative. There is nothing non-violent about a system that takes away the few possessions that homeless people have, time and time again, beating them, forcibly moving them, and then chastising them for not picking themselves up by their bootstraps. There's nothing peaceful about a system that tear gases cities, that uses armored vehicles to suppress its populace, that goes into universities and beats students, most of them barely adults, for the audacity of speaking their minds about a political cause and wanting to stop a fucking genocide. The world given to our generation by the baby boomers, first and foremost, but also Gen X. You could have done more. And damn, I mean, millennials, we tried. Tried a few things. Tried a few things, didn't we? Didn't really work. Didn't really work. When we tried those things and we saw that they didn't work and we began to understand the enormity of what we were up against, so many people were still so convinced by the lessons we were taught in school about Gandhi, about Martin Luther King, about peaceful resistance. We didn't see any other paths forward because violence was never the way. It didn't matter that violence is always the way. It's the way that the nation that we grew up in enforced its will across the globe. It's the way that it enforced its will at home. It's the way that it protects and maintains normalcy, that it guarantees social reproduction day after day after day, the recreation of social conditions day in and day out. It's not that our country believes that violence is wrong. It's that our country believes that it is the master's tool. Not ours. Not yours. Not mine. It's the master's tool. State monopolization of violence is one of those cornerstones of decorum and presentability that liberals cling to, like the last piece of flotsam and jetsam after a sinking ship. Oh, we have to maintain decorum. We have to be respectable. We have to follow rules and order. We have to go about things the right way. It's such a fucking crock of shit. You know, when I was born, school shootings weren't a thing. They didn't happen. Not once a year, not once every 5 years, not once every 10 years. They didn't happen. And we become so fucking conditioned to be used to them and just accept them as a fact of life, when the solution is so fucking simple and straightforward. It feels like there's so many simple answers to problems that we're facing that are just inconvenient answers, that are just uncomfortable answers, and solutions that demand fundamental change. And this stubborn apparatus operated by the living dead refuse to engage with the only sensible, only workable, only real options for solutions. Instead, they ask for compromises where compromise can't exist. And they'll send thoughts and prayers. Fucking. This country doesn't need to be the military state protecting capital that it is developed into. It doesn't. It doesn't. I don't hate this country. I'm tired. I'm angry. There's nothing really that special about this country. There's nothing that sets it apart that it's especially unforgivable, unredeemable, unchangeable. It's not. American exceptionalism is a fucking lie, both in a positive context and in a negative context. I've said nothing new here today. I've presented no new thoughts feelings, conclusions. Not new to myself, not new to anyone else. That's the maddening fucking thing. Is that so much of this isn't new. It's just recurrent cycles trending towards inevitable conclusions. I love you. And it doesn't matter. I love you and it doesn't mean it. I love you and I can't stop the pain. I can't make it go away. I love you and you inspire me so much. You give me so much hope. And I can't make the world a safer place for you. I can't give you security. I can give you company. And that's about it. We're going to hell in a handbasket. And I've got my seats reserved. And there's always a spot for you. I can't stop it. I can make it a little better. A little less miserable with the pleasure of my company, though that's not always so pleasurable. And I can build you up, and I can encourage you, and I can shine a light on all the ways you make the world better. And there are so many ways. There are so many ways you make it better. Now I keep telling myself, that has to be enough. That company, that limited, insubstantial alleviation of some suffering has to be enough. It's better than nothing. I keep looking at how little I can do, how little I can offer. And I have to just keep telling myself that it's enough. When it's not. It's not. Not enough for me. It's not enough for anyone. But I'm not a fucking magician. I am not one of the lucky, privileged few born with a silver spoon in hand who sit at the gears and levers of agency and authority that can make monumental change arbitrary. I'm just a sweet, tired, sad little queer with big feelings and way too much time to think, who is scared of losing the people that they love. And they're so scared of what tomorrow will. I don't want to be afraid. I want to sing and make music. I want to bring you joy and laughter and play games. I want to learn more and teach more about the world. I want to build things together. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I can't write. I shouldn't be apologizing to you. I should be apologizing to me. But I've gotten so comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the terrible thing.